TJW says if the Niners keep Jimmy all year and he sits out, is on IR to get a third-round comp pick, does Lynch view that as winning the trade? Ridiculous. I know. Here's my question. If Jimmy sits out all year and is essentially a backup, does the comp pick that the Niners get back, does it drop since he wasn't a starter this year? Or has he started enough games that they still get a third-round comp pick for him? I don't know.
They would say I think he's established, but it would be end of the third round. So you're talking about the 105th pick in the draft. And I don't know that would be worth it, to be honest.
So
I really don't.
He's established. So that essentially means that John's not going to take anything less than the 105th pick in the draft for Jimmy Garoppolo. That's where we stand. So if Cleveland wants to trade him, you got to beat that.
Right.
Because I don't think the Niners care about the $27 million. I mean, Jed already said he'll pay it.
They said they've budgeted for it.
Yeah, they don't care. And if they need to create $4 million in cap space to extend Debo, there's 100 ways they could do that. That doesn't involve anything with Jimmy Garoppolo. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if as long as they can do their business, why would they be forced into a pressured situation on the quarterback when maybe they don't know, maybe they have 10 questions about Trey. Maybe 8 of them have been answered. Maybe 2 of them have not been answered. Maybe they want to still see that all 10 are answered before they move off of their only other quarterback they think they can win games with. I mean, that makes sense. They got a lot of guys in that room who and I know, Grant, if Trent Williams has no shot at the Super Bowl this year, that's not going to be a happy Trent Williams.
No. What bugged me about the Niners offseason is that they didn't commit to Trey. They could have poured $24 million more into the roster, into helping Trey, if they were that confident in him. But clearly they're not. As we talked about earlier in the show, they're not 100% confident. And so rather than take a leap of faith, which could, if it backfired, cost them their jobs, they're going to hedge this year, I think, and keep Jimmy Garoppolo around unless they can get a third-round pick or better for him and have that safety net. So if Trey Lance stinks early in the year, guess who's here? Or if he gets hurt. I think they feel more comfortable spending money on a Trey Lance hedge than Trey Lance support. But I could be wrong. You still think he's going to Cleveland. Cleveland could bail the Niners out and give Trey Lance a super highway to be this team's starting quarterback. With no
I will say this. Jed did say, because I don't think Jed's quite as smooth a talker as some of these other guys. Jed did say, hey, we're ready to have this guy in the roster for the next 2 years. He said that.
Right after
it wasn't nobody pushed him to say that. Nope. He picked those terms. He could have said 1 year. He said 2 years. So they want everybody to think that they've got the potential to keep him on that roster. And so if you want him, they want what they got. They want to win the trade, or they want the insurance. They view the insurance has certain value to the insurance, and ultimately that's what he would be if he's sitting behind Trey.
And I do feel that maybe Kyle's not worried about his job security, but I think John, to an extent, is thinking about it because he has lost some trades, some big ones. He lost the DeForest Buckner trade, at least for now. He lost the D Ford trade for sure.
He can't lose another trade.
This was his big win. He beat he beat Belichick. He beat the Patriots. He got Jimmy, and to cut him would be it was a big loss, and not a big loss, but actually, you could even argue it's a win. They've gotten enough out of a second-round pick trade, but he might feel that's another loss on my resume, and it might make him feel, insecure in his position as a general manager. I understand that, but at a certain point, his job is to do what's best for the Niners, not what's best for his resume.
The only thing I'll say is that I'm starting to think about the distraction of having the quarterback, and there would be a distraction for sure. But they almost seem like they could probably endure it, because it is 2 quarterbacks at least have mutual respect for one another. We know that that's firmly established. It's not like it's a toxic thing between the 2 guys. I think those guys get along, and it's just a matter of the questions and the drum beat and the distraction. But I don't think it's the kind of distraction that would prevent them from winning. This isn't New York or Philly.
I don't think it's necessarily the interpersonal relationship between Trey and Jimmy, that Jimmy would be subversive or antagonistic. I think it's just the psychological aspect of Trey knowing the Niners don't fully have confidence in him, that you still got the guy lurking right over your shoulder. He's the monkey on your back. You can't get rid of him. And if you do anything, and it's like with that,
don't you think that might resonate with the other players? Because that is the situation that the rest of the players are actually in. Well, most quarterbacks are not in that situation, but
maybe
but
it will resonate with them. But what's going to happen with Trey is that you're opening the door for everyone to second guess everything he does. Nothing he does will be good enough unless he starts the season 4-0, because it'll be his arm was a little sore after practice, or the ball wasn't spinning, the spiral wasn't good enough. We've seen it already.
It's young Montana all over again.
Exactly. Because Jimmy doesn't need to prove himself. Jimmy wins. Jimmy is liked. Jimmy is established. So Trey has to be better. And he can't prove that he's better until he plays for like 2 or 3 years. So he is going to get nitpicked by his own team, his own front office, relentlessly. And I'd like to see them actually to be like, you know what? We traded up for you. We are all in with you. They won't do it. They're very much protecting themselves, even though they put themselves out there.
If you really think about it, though, the young Montana time, now granted, organization, different time, different place, different everything, but it is worth noting that at that point, that was the best run this franchise has ever had. And is that cause and effect? Did Steve Young bring that out of Joe Montana, and then Joe Montana bring that out of Steve Young when they were both essentially looking over the other's shoulders at different times? You could argue yes, and Jed was front and center for a lot of that. So maybe he feels like this is the right way to go, and have them compete and continue to compete and have that awkwardness. It was awkward, but they won a lot of games, including a couple bowls.
They never won a Super Bowl with Joe Montana lurking as Steve Young's backup. They had to actually take the leap of faith and go with Steve Young. Now, at that point, Steve Young had won 2 MVPs. He'd gone, but they
won 2 and almost went to 3 in a row with Steve looking over Joe's shoulder.
Right. So, but hold on. What I'm saying is, they've proven that they can handle the dynamic of Jimmy as a starter and Trey as the backup. Trey's a kid. Trey's respectful. Trey doesn't have relationships on this team like Jimmy does. How does it work if it's reversed? It's going to be a whole different thing. Now, just because Trey's respectful and won't necessarily, rub it in on Jimmy, how is the rest of the team going to handle it? How is the front office, coaching staff, and fan base going to handle it? If Jimmy's still there, I think a lot of people will look at it as, man, Jimmy's done too much for this franchise. This is disrespectful. It's not right. Let him free. He wants to go.
It would be awesome in some ways. Just think about the incredible daily. You want excitement in camp. You want a daily narrative. You want the 49ers story to be the biggest sports story in the Bay. Keep both quarterbacks all year. Run it back with your exact same team. Keep both quarterbacks all year. And don't announce anybody as the starter. Just say it's an open competition, and we'll just see. And then that's inviting the circus to town, and that would be like one of the biggest stories in the NFL all season long, every day.
I'm rooting for that.